So I have, I'll just have you give this quick summary. Okay, unless you have something else you want to. Huh? The year to date. Yeah. This is from here? Well, welcome everyone. Did everybody have a chance to sign in on the sign-in sheet out back? Ken's going to grab the sign-in sheet. If you didn't have a chance to sign in yet, raise your hand and Ken will get you a sign-up sheet. All right, we're going to call the congregational meeting for December 11th to order at 11 o'clock. Look at there. If we would, opening prayer, Pastor Tim.
Well, I know we already did some singing, but I had some inspiration strike yesterday. I want to pass out a song that I wrote. I invite you to sing with me. I'll teach it once we get it passed out here. Take one and pass it on.
Not everybody has a pastor who can write music.
Well, and thanks to Pastor Roseanne, because I had that whole creative part of my brain free for a week.
Yeah, he's like, I feel like I should be writing.
I know, yeah. Over functioning. So I want to teach you the refrain, and then there's a little piece that we sing as we get ready to start the refrain. All right? I'll sing it, and then we'll sing it together. Connecting, starting where we are. Connecting, both near and far. Connecting, we shall arise. Connecting through Christ. You want to try that? Connecting, starting where we are. Connecting, both near and far. Connecting, we shall arise. Connecting through Christ. And then there's one little piece at the end of the verses that we sing. Do not fear, I am with you. Want to try that? Do not fear, I am with you. Connecting, starting where we are. Connecting, both near and far. Connecting, we shall arise. Connecting through Christ. Sing this part. We don't need one more rule to follow.
Thank you very much. Well, we definitely have a quorum today. Thank you for attending. We need an approval of the agenda as it's published on the front of your packet. If you haven't, does everybody have a packet, first of all? You need a packet? They're out here. We'll grab one for you. Here you go. You're welcome. Anybody else need a packet? So we need an approval of the agenda, a motion for an approval of the agenda. By Doug, second by Ann. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. The minutes for the congregational meeting that was held on September 18th is in that packet. You can look those minutes over. Motion to approve the minutes by Paul, Pam, second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Pastor, your report.
I was just up here. Well, it's good to talk with you all about our mission. I have my report here that's here for your perusal, but anytime I name names, I want to specifically thank these folks. So I want to thank Peggy Burns for ministry with Orchard Creek and for continuing to distribute communion to those folks. I want to thank Michelle Anderson this year for her many years of service with our young people, with our youth discipleship. So thank you, Michelle. I want to thank Tim Wilson, who helped us get organized with our mission and vision team. Nick Bank was also on that team, and I want to thank John Jeffrey in his role as consulting with us to get that done. So thank you to you all. A big thank you to Glenn Miller, our church council president, to the whole church council who kind of took the ball and ran with it and did a lot of really wonderful prayerful visioning work. So if you were on at the beginning of this year and if you continued on the rest of this year, thank you to all of our council members. Just thank you to all of our disciples, all of our members who have been connecting through Christ in this whole year and figuring out how to continue to do that. The things that we can do, obviously it helps to give, it helps to share. It also really helps to participate. That we got some really important goals. We're going to have council liaisons for some of these goals that we have set. But if you've got an idea for a small group, or one of these sounds good, or it's just at least worth a try, connect with us and participate. Participate in these small groups. If you have a heart for our young people, if you're thinking about what how we can come up with some ideas for our youth events, we can do that. If you got an idea for just how we can be out in the community, we have some good ideas already. If you have an idea for a way that we can be connecting out in the community, let us know. We really are all hands on deck here. And we're going to be doing some personal care kits for Lutheran Rural Relief this upcoming year. So if you want to participate in that, we are really hoping to be able to do that as well. So that's my report. That's what I have. Any questions? Any other thoughts? Okay, thank you.
We'll have a motion at the end to put all those reports on file as they come along. But needle crafters,
Jill and I really want to thank the faithful gals in our needle crafters group. We get together once a month, but a lot of the gals, most of the gals do work at home too. So we might be small in numbers, but we've been doing great things this year. And we've been kind of visible this year in showing what we're doing. We made a special effort for you to actually see what goes on. And we saw the pillowcases that we made, 97 pillowcases that were made and went to addiction treatment services in Traverse City for their men's and women's facilities. We had 20 bibs hanging on 25 bibs hanging on clotheslines out in the narthex there. And so it was really pretty spectacular walking in church that day to see all that. So that's pretty much what we have done for the community this past year. We focused on addiction treatment services of Traverse City and the adult bibs for ProMedica Hospice. And we continue and have made baby layettes for Generations Ahead, which is a baby layettes for pregnant teen moms. And we've also made prayer squares for Orchard Creek. And our ongoing work, of course, is Lutheran World Relief. And you saw the beautiful quilts displayed on the backs of our chairs, and they were shipped off to Lutheran World Relief in October. The Cunninghams were gracious and delivered those quilts to Trinity Lutheran in Frankfurt, where they were then transported to Grand Rapids put in a big semi-truck. So that's pretty much what we've accomplished. We've got more ideas for next year. And so thank you for your support and your prayers for our group, and we'll keep working.
Thank you much for all that beautiful work, too. That's really nice. Doug, on properties.
Just pleased to announce we haven't had any major problems lately, so it's all good. And thank everybody for their continued support in helping to maintain this wonderful facility. We do a great deal in-house, and we always draw upon everybody's resources. Just amazing. If it's technology or just general labor, we manage to get it done, and spring's around the corner. We'll be calling on everyone again. Thank you. I may as well just stay right here.
That'd be perfect.
Lake Ann Peace Park. Goes without saying, we're just going to persevere. So, anybody that has an inclination to join a committee, feel free to contact me. We do have a recent vacancy, and it's all good. Thank you.
So Nancy Dow asked if I'd just give a short report on the baby pantry. The baby pantry has been kind of suffering here, not because of your donations, but because of people in the community coming to find us at the baby pantry. So we've had declining users of the baby pantry over the course of time here at this location. So they have heard the message of the shift of connecting through Christ and how we can better serve the community. And they are looking to turn that into now a more of an online registration. Also looking to pair up with some of the schools in the area and other groups to be able to reach young families that are in need of diapers. And so that ministry is important. That ministry needs to continue, and they know they can continue it. They just have to shift, and they're in the process of making that shift. So at the beginning of the year, they're going to start out with some more of this online process. I'm sorry? Yes, yes.
I didn't write anything down for the packet, just so as you know. I'm speaking on behalf of Altar Care. We have what I will say is a small group of helpers. They are very faithful, very happy to pitch in for each other. But it means every week someone is here by 9 o'clock, earlier if possible, to set up the altar. It is a real privilege to be able to set out God's feast every Sunday. It really is a wonderful thing. And even ironing the linens afterwards is just another blessing, to just have it as most beautiful ironing that you could possibly have, because you know it is for God. Somehow wine shows up in our wine cabinet. I don't know who is doing that, but it's wonderful. And thank you to Heather, because it was always a very pain in the neck to have to get the corks out. And she, during a meeting, immediately through Amazon ordered us an electric cork puller, which is, that's the highlight of our year right there. We do need more help. The job has expanded to being in charge of or help coordinate the banners. Right now, we're looking for banners. We have them all over the place. We don't really have a sacristy. If we did, we could add it on right there, a nice 12 by 12 room, and it'd be perfect for everything. But it has expanded to also having flowers at the altar and decorations. So thank you to everyone who has helped. And please, if you have any inkling to do the weekly altar care, let me know. Training is free.
And thank you, Bethany, for all the lovely decorations for Christmas. It's gorgeous. Ann has our treasurer's update.
I'm a little tall for this.
It was set for this short.
Just going to bend down. And I am starting to get more comfortable up here. I didn't freak out, last time I was here. Didn't run away crying, so. All right, so I'm going to focus more on the later half of the financial report. The top half is just specifically for the month of November, but if you have any questions about that, meet with me afterwards. But I'd like to focus on the year-to-date 2022 financials, and that's in the bottom half of the report. So, as most of you are aware, our revenues, expenses, and our finances in general are partitioned based on a general fund, and then also our building fund, designated funds, ministries, et cetera. So the difference between that is that the general fund is all of our usual expenses, utilities, pastor, candles, anything else you can think of. And then the building fund is more for the mortgage, interest expense on the mortgage, any kind of long-term maintenance. So it really just boils down to things that have a designated purpose. General fund, we can use it on any expense we need. Building fund and everything else has an express purpose. So the first few lines concern just the general fund. So year to date, you can see that the revenue is around 120,000. However, the operational expenses year to date are outpacing that at 124,000. And compared to last year, we're ahead in our expenses. That's not really something that we, it's not a huge surprise. We've had 8% inflation this year. Some other unexpected items coming up, but Compared to budget over on the right-hand side, the expenses are more or less on track. They're about $1,200 off. But what's really lagging behind compared to where we thought we would be this year is versus our budget number, which is about $11,600 off from where we thought we would be in the general fund. And that all boils down to, for just the general fund, a net loss of $18,748. The building fund, however, has a much happier story. As you all remember, we refinanced our mortgage at a very, very opportune time, probably kind of like the last chopper out of Nam, as far as rates go, if you've seen mortgage rates lately. It was, and it's been reducing those expenses significantly from where we thought we would be, and especially compared to this time last year. So the building fund offerings have been just slightly under $59,000 for the year, while the expenses, which includes the mortgage, the parking lot, any of that long-term maintenance type items, is just under $44,000, which leads to a net income for the building fund of $14,711. When you net those two numbers, that does mean that as an organization, we have taken year-to-date through November a net loss of a touch over $4,000. I think it's $4,093, I want to say. There's a couple of updates on balances of the funds at the end. That non-restricted bank balance item, that's any cash that isn't already spoken for, and you can see that that's a negative number. That means that we need to borrow from our funds that are designated to pay our general expenses, like pastor, like office supplies, like candles, like gas, electricity, the phone bill, etc. That has made some progress lately. At the end of October, it was negative 4,000 some, so it has made some progress as of recent. However, it is still in the negative. And our MIF, and due to MIF, that is another word for the funds in the building fund, and that's at $19,615. And that large number is due to some very generous giving towards the building fund this year, which we thank you so much for that. The current liability section, so there's the Synod benevolence. Every time that we get a donation towards the general fund, we set aside 5% of those revenues to give to the Synod. And so far, since we still owe $5,707, and then our mortgage right now, we have brought down that balance to around $427,000. Can I answer any questions, any thoughts, any additional items to cover?
Why do we have building fund up above, and then we also have it down with the MIF balance?
Sure. So I like to think of that, that building fund offerings, expenses, and net income. That's our income statement. So that's things coming in, things going out, just kind of a snapshot of funds coming in, expenses that we've had. And that current liabilities section for the MIF, that balance is just the total, it's like a snapshot in time. That's how much cash is there right now that's designated for specifically that. Mission Investment Fund. It's, I don't know a whole ton about it, but I know it's associated with the ELCA, and it's, we have our mortgage through them. And I think, help me out, guys.
So
Mission Investment Fund uses that money to build other churches.
There you go.
So,
Any other questions I can answer? Okay.
that was marvelous, Ann.
Thank you very much.
We need a motion to put those reports on file. So moved by Paul, second by Peggy. Any other discussion on the reports? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. So now we come to the fun part. If I can get this to work. It's not working for some reason. I'm saying my mouse is not working. You can hear me clearing my throat just fine, but the mouse isn't working. There we go. So we're at the 2023 annual budget presentation. And again, thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. We can't do this without you. And this worked just fine last night, but there's too many people in the room, obviously. Too many phones in the room, maybe. I don't know. But you have to bear with me. I'm a linear storyteller. So I have to start at the beginning, and I have to move through the story from A all the way through to the end. And it kills my wife and my kids to have to listen to all the crap in the middle. But that's the only way I know that we're all on the same page and to get through the process. But promise that there is good news at the end when we finally get to the end of the story. We started out in 2022, as Ann says, kind of as a mixed year. We started out very strong. We had positive funds thanks to generous donations from you all at the end of the year. The same time last year, we stood in front of you and said, our general fund is marginal. Our building fund is broke. We need to refinance. We need to restructure that existing mortgage. And we need authorization as council to do so. And you gave that to us. The other thing you did was you wrote some large checks. And those large checks went into the building fund, into the general fund, and put us into a very positive balance. Excuse me. But just like in years past, we have lower membership each quarter. And each quarter with that declining membership means that we end up missing our general fund revenue by $14,000, as Ann pointed out. We're currently $14,000 behind in our general fund revenue from what we anticipated at our meeting here last year. Our 2020 year-end general fund balance, because we had such large offerings at the beginning of the year, minus the $14,000 that declined through the course of the year, ended up with a net loss in that general fund at the end of $3,500. As Ann pointed out, we were able to restructure our mortgage, restructure our mortgage at 3 7/8%, a wonderful interest rate. At that time, we looked at it and said, man, this is a little higher than what we were paying. But thank goodness we did it then, right? We even had to convince the MIF that we were going to do this a year early from what we had originally put on our original mortgage. And they questioned, why are you doing this early? And we said, well, we need to have a payment that we can afford, and we want to lock it in now. And thank goodness we did. The current building fund balance is at $19,600 to the good. And that's even after we paid for the crack ceiling out there in the parking lot. So we have a positive balance, in the building fund. In 2022, thank goodness to John Jeffrey, and John, I know you're watching online, and thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts for the guidance you gave us on adopting that mission statement. We adopted a vision statement, and we have not yet enacted any of those SMART goals that are in that vision statement. That vision statement was adopted with the idea that those vision statement goals would happen after the first of the year. We haven't even yet started on those, but we're ready to. 2023, the budget process started out with stewardship campaign, and that was led by Jim and his group. And we had, again, very generous pledge cards returned from that stewardship campaign. Again, we had fewer families, which meant fewer pledge cards and less revenue. When I stood back here and scared the pants off myself and you 2 weeks ago, at that time we were $60,000 shy of our projected revenue to meet budget. Since then, we've had additional pledge cards received in the last 2 weeks, and that deficit has been drastically reduced. Our projected shortfall is still short of our expenses by $24,000. A far cry from 60, much better than 60, and we're at 24,000. But reality is that's $2,000 a month. But remember, I said there's good news, don't panic. Our general fund running total at the end of year 2023, a year from now, when I stand here in front of you and tell you once more, our general fund balance at the end of that year is projected to be at a negative 27,000. The 24 that we're talking about, plus the 3 we're already in the hole, takes us to 27,000. 2023, this next year, our building fund, again, a second segment. The building fund has a projected surplus of $7,500. That's exactly what we said we would do when we restructured the mortgage. The restructuring of the mortgage was to be able to have a payment on that mortgage that we could afford and put about $7,500 a year into the building fund for long-term maintenance. And again, that's exactly what's going to happen for 2023 because of your pledges, not because of something we're doing, but because of your pledges. Because of that positive balance, Ann just talked about a few minutes ago, that building fund is running a year-end balance of 2023. A year from now, it'll be $25,000 in that building fund. So you can see, if we borrow from the building fund to pay for the general fund, we'll be solvent. It's not a long-term solution. This is not a long-term fix. It solves the problem for this year, but does it solve the problem long-term? So the question is, how do we solve it? We've had some very difficult discussions, I can tell you, over the last couple of weeks. They haven't been difficult with personalities. Everybody has been very candid, very empathetic, very understanding, understands the problem. We've all worked together. We've had very many conversations with the synod, the assistant to the bishop. Council's met numerous times over the last couple of weeks. And as Thomas Fuller tells us, all things are difficult before they come easy. And we're at the difficult time right now, but it will get better. Stephen Covey, who is a well-known author, says, begin with the end in mind. So when we sat in that council room a couple nights ago, Thursday, right? Thursday, we sat there and we said, what is the end? How do we get there? And when we focus on the end game and work backwards, it became clear again to us what we needed to do. The end is not somebody writing a big check. The end is not asking you for more money. The end is a robust church fulfilling its mission. That is the answer. And to get there is a fundamental shift. All of us need to change our thinking. Someone said at the council meeting the other night, sounds like what we're talking about is a brand new church. And yes, it is. It's a new church. It's a new church way of thinking. We have to get back to that mission-style outreach concept. That same concept that put 400 people in this building on Christmas Eve when it opened. The same concept that put 100 people in worship here every Sunday. That's what we got to get back to. Trust that here in this room and in this membership list is a complete church. All of the tools that we need to do what we're talking about exist here. There's no magic horse coming into town. The synod's not going to bail us out. Nobody else is going to come in here. We don't need a consultant to come in here and take 20% of your funds to make another fundraiser. We're not going to do that. The talents exist in this room to do it. Council has been very blessed with a group that's working very, very hard to make this happen. And around that table are some very intelligent people that I get to work with on a monthly basis, and they bring all sorts of different insights. We couldn't do it without them. In 2022, we started rebuilding, excuse me, we started rebuilding without even knowing it. We started with that restructuring. That was our first step. We did it because our building fund was broke, right? We did it because we knew we needed to fix it, the mortgage, but we didn't realize at that time what we were really doing was the very first step of restructuring this church system-wide. The turning point to that all was at the council retreat. So at the council retreat, when we sat around and talked about a mission and vision statement, I have to admit to you all that I'm like, this is a bunch of balloons and ponies. This is silly. We're sitting around talking about the mission statement and the vision statement, and I'm doing it because John Jeffrey is telling me we got to do it. And at the end of the night, I understand why. This is important. Dave Ramsey tells us, without a mission statement, you may get to the top of your ladder and then realize it's leaning against the wrong building. He doesn't say the wrong wall in the building. He doesn't say the wrong room. He doesn't say the wrong corridor. He's saying, you're across the street. You're way out of whack. You're against the wrong building. Connecting through Christ is our mission statement. We all know that. This is a neat quote. The only way the corporate body of Christ will fulfill the mission that Christ has given it, make no mistake, Christ gave us that mission. We adopted it, but he gave it to us, is for individual Christians to have a vision to fulfill that mission personally. Next slide, let me read that to you the way it applies to us. The only way that Advent Lutheran Church will connect through Christ is for individual members, that's us, you, me, everyone, to have a vision for filling that mission personally. And that's what I'm here to tell you today. We've got a newly adopted vision statement. The time for action is right now. We need to reboot. We cannot continue the way we have been in the past. It won't work. It's proven. We've done a great job of proving that it won't work. Now we need to prove how to do it. We must get back to that mission style of thinking as the ability for Advent to survive depends on it. We cannot borrow from ourselves to pay our bills. We need to do community programs. The golf outing, that was a wonderful program. Told everybody in the community what we stood for. The sportsman's dinner, Paul has done a marvelous job on that with his gang. We need to continue it. Bingo. Bingo is a great program. It raises a lot of money for a lot of good programs in the community. But we don't do a very good job of promoting who's putting it on. We go there, and if you, at that bingo tent, ask who's doing this, they don't know who Advent Lutheran Church is. They don't know that we're doing it. We need to do a better job of promoting that Advent Lutheran Church is doing bingo, and that bingo is reaching the community. If bingo is going to fund camperships, there needs to be giant posters there showing what camp looks like. Right? Thus, the kids were there to assist. Let's communicate that. Again, a shift in our thinking. The baby pantry. If nobody's coming through that door, yet we know 1,000 people in this community that need diapers, we need to be getting those diapers to those 1,000 people. Let's not ask them to come through that door. A shift in our thinking. We need programs for this membership. We need small groups, vacation Bible school, youth programs, and adult programs. They have to happen. Ice cream in the park. We've talked about ice cream and water at the Elmira Township Park. You go to Elmira Township Park in the summer, there are kids playing baseball there every single night of the week. 2 teams, every diamond. I think there's 3 or 4 diamonds there. Hundreds of kids, hundreds of families. We could go out there with a little red wagon, with a cooler full of ice cream, dry ice on the top of it, and hand out free ice cream to every kid in that park. We could do the same thing with water, and it won't cost us 1 dime. Jill gets a $250 check from Thrivent twice a year. I can get two $500 checks from Thrivent twice a year. Pam can get 200 checks, or 2 checks, at $250 a piece, everyone. Everyone that's a Thrivent member can get $500. We can fund this kind of a program, not out of our own pockets, but from programs that exist, like Thrivent. There are outreach programs, and we can go to the assistant to the bishop and say, what does the ELCA church have for programs to extend to the community for outreach? And those programs exist. Those grants exist. We have to ask for it. We have to be smarter. We got to revive ourselves. We can't just sit here and say it's somebody else's job. It's us. We need to revive ourselves. We need to invite our neighbors to come. We need to develop additional SMART goals, and that's council's job. Council is in the process of feeding more of these SMART goals at the bottom. We've got a few of them you've heard about. You're going to hear about them again. But those SMART goals, we're adding to them, and as some get accomplished off the top, we move in another one. We've got 9 months to get this correction going. We got this proverbial ship. This proverbial ship is headed to the rocks. I'm not saying we got to get that boat to the new dock, moored, passengers off from it, all cleaned up, ready to go. I'm saying this boat that's headed to that rocks has got to make a change in its course and get on the right path. We've got 9 months to do that. That's our timeline. So let's do this frequently asked questions. The frequently asked questions I'm going to bring up because I know that a lot of people are too embarrassed to ask. They're sensitive subjects. I'm not very smart, so let me be the guinea pig. Can we get a new part-time pastor? Save ourselves some money? Certainly we could. But who's going to do that job? Who is going to do the community outreach? Who's going to be the person here on a daily basis to answer the phone, to do the shut-ins, et cetera, et cetera? If we're going to do our mission, we can't do that with a part-time pastor. Can we do it with a new pastor? Sure, we can do it with a new pastor. Interesting subject, though. We were on the phone with the assistant to the bishop, at one of our meetings, and we talked about what is the timeline right now for pastors. What is the situation? If the situation that we talked about a couple of weeks ago when this thing was going downhill, if that continued, what is the situation for pastor? Is there another spot for him? They said, yeah, absolutely there is. There's 1,000 churches in the ELCA church right now looking for pastors. That means that if we lose pastor, we're 1,001 on the list for someone else. Well, let's see. Let me fill out that application. Hey, we're looking for a pastor, 1,001, to come to this place where we can't balance our budget. What's our chances of getting a pastor then? Slim to none. So, can we sell the building and move to a less expensive location? Sure, we could. We could sell this building. I'm not sure who we'd sell it to, but we could sell the building, maybe a daycare. But remember, just like selling your own home, first thing you have to do is pay off the mortgage, and we have a $430,000 mortgage we have to pay off. And then the question is, let's say you make $100,000 profit. I don't think you would, but let's just say you would. $100,000 profit, what are you going to do with $100,000? You're going to take that $100,000, does it now fix your community outreach? Does it fix the attitude in this room? No. Does it fix the attitude of the church? No. Does it change our vacation Bible school, our Sunday school? No. In fact, it makes all of those things harder to do without this building. So selling the building doesn't solve our problem. Can we merge with another church? Yeah, if we can find one, we could. But again, we're back to the part-time pastor. We're back to they have to adopt our mission goals, and we have to adopt their mission goals, so we're even more segmented, trying to get those two groups together. Again, we are a complete church. We have to remember that. We can do that right here. So how do we define success? We define success as doing the mission. We know the mission is connecting through Christ. We just got to do it. That is the mission. That is success. That is the end game, is doing the mission. So how do we get there? It takes all of us. You need to assist when asked. I don't want to pick on Pastor, but this poor man last year had to volunteer to do bingo so that bingo could happen. He's got a young family at home. He was there from sunup to sundown and a little more every single night doing bingo. We all assisted and helped out by being callers and runners, etc. But he can't be in the office. He can't be out in community outreach. He can't be doing those things if he's running bingo. So when we come to you and say, Pastor's not going to run bingo in 2023, we need someone to be head of bingo for Monday. We need somebody to be head of bingo for Tuesday, somebody to be in charge for Thursday, somebody in charge for Friday. We've got the plan all laid out. You just have to be the person that signs at the bottom of the sheet for the state of Michigan that says, I'm in charge that day. We already have people already trained to be counters and callers, etc. But those kinds of things are a fundamental shift. We can't just sit back and say, I hope somebody else volunteers. When they call and ask you, will you volunteer? And wait, don't even wait to be asked. Volunteer. Raise your hand. Offer suggestions. We don't have all the answers. Council, we got the best of intentions, but we don't have all the answers. So if you see something you would like us to do, let us know. Continuing your unwavering support. We know that people love to be involved with something that's really succeeding, and putting your money onto something that's really fancy, everybody loves to do. We can't have you choke now, and I'm not here to try and scare you. I'm here to give you the reality of where we're at. That's my job. So we don't want you to stop your unwavering support because we need it to be able to make this turn. As Pastor said earlier, you need to join a small group. And one of our SMART goals is to have 4 newly regular meeting small groups this next year so that we all can connect with each other on a deeper level through Christ. That is part of our small groups. Help organize youth events. Man, this is so important. We need to return to regular events for our middle school and high school students and their friends on a monthly basis as a minimum. You cannot ask families at the ballpark to come to this church if we don't have regular events for middle and high school students. We're going to plan 2 major outreach events for the community, and we really need to act like a new church and not stay within these 4 walls. We have to move out. You did that. It was real easy when you met at the fire hall to be out into the community because you couldn't be in the fire hall Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We just kind of got comfortable being here. We need to be out in the community. Lutheran World Relief. Thank you very much, ladies. We're going to continue connecting with the world with personal care kits and then with the backpacks and all of that stuff at Christmas and the quilts. All of those kinds of things that we currently do, we need to continue to do them. We need to invite our neighbors. It's known that 99% of all people that come to church come because they were invited by someone that wasn't the pastor. It's not pastor's job to go out and call on every single member of the community and invite them to come to church. It doesn't work that way. It's us. Again, our fundamental shift. Back when we met at the fire hall, we invited people because we were excited about it. We need to be excited about it. Remember, revive ourselves. This is it. We need to keep giving to the custodial fund. A few years ago, a well-mannered man came up here and said we are going to do custodial ourselves here and save some money. His even smarter wife said, we're going to write some checks, and some checks are going to be written, and we're going to cover that custodial fund. We need to continue the custodial fund. We love how this building is much cleaner than it's ever been. We love the job that Joanne is doing. Thank you very much, Joanne, for doing it. I don't want to get into the discussion about where the funds are coming from, so just donate to the fund, the custodial fund, and it's taken care of. Support the properties. Keep giving to that parking lot fund. We did the crack sealing this fall. We're doing the seal coat and striping this next year. That seal coat and striping project is just shy of $5,000 to do that. At the very first time we announced that we were gonna do that parking lot, we got donations of $2,700. We're halfway there. So again, in the spring, when we come back to you and say we need to put some money into the parking lot fund, Doug's gonna have a date that says he's finally got, the weather's finally broke, the contractor's available, and it's gonna happen 2 weeks from now. We're gonna ask you again if you want to donate to the fund. I believe will be that fully paid for before they ever put any tar out there. Properties. Doug has been here probably 3 times a week for the last 2 years, each and every week. Working on the building, mowing, taking care of problems that exist, heating, air conditioning, electricity, you name it. He can't do it himself. He needs to have some support of others. So if you want to help mow, get a hold of Doug, get a hold of Keith, help with the mowing. You know somebody that wants to walk in here that's got strapping young shoulders that can work a lawnmower, we can use a guy just like him. That's what happens, Ben. If you leave, you come back, you get volunteered. You're on the mowing committee. Here's another one, steam clean the carpets. My wife steam cleaned the carpets out there out in the narthex, all by herself, back into the nursery, all by herself. Doesn't take a huge group of people to do that. This room here, it needs it. We can either pay somebody to do it or we can do it, right? So we can get 3, 4 people that say that they want to help out on that project. You move the chairs out of here, you steam clean the carpet, a couple days later you come back and put the chairs back. Those kinds of things, Doug's got a million of those kinds of things, like steam cleaning the upholstery in the sanctuary, that all needs to be done. Those are not huge manpower projects, but need to be done. Again, support the properties. We have a vision statement, it's called Connecting Through Christ. You've heard of that before. We've got a vision statement that defines how to carry out that mission. And we've suffered. And we're suffering now because we have not done that. We have not lived our mission statement. We've not done our vision statement. And because it had expired and we hadn't updated it, but we did this last year. That's the change that gets us back on track. That's the fix. That's what we need to do. The end, again, is a robust church fulfilling its mission. That is the goal. Successful people have fear. Successful people have doubts. We've all got fear. We've all got doubts. And successful people have worries. Yeah, we're worried. We've been worried. Those successful people just don't let those feelings stop them. We're here to answer any other questions that you might have on that thought, on that concept. And then in your packet, the last 4 pages in your packet are the proposed budget that you've had a chance to look over. It's the same sheet I mailed you before. The sheet I mailed you before had a $60,000 deficit. This one is at 24. So look it over. We're here to answer any questions that you might have. And then ultimately at the end, we need to have an adoption of that budget. Not all at once. Thoughts? What do you think? How do you feel?
All those things, Glenn.
Huh?
I feel all those things you just mentioned. Brave, concerned, but committed.
Yep.
And just for the record, I want to make sure that somebody says this. We just don't have any pastor. We have a great pastor.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely, we do. I honestly don't know why the rest of you come to church on Sunday. Because when he preaches just to me. I don't know why he's talking, I don't know who he's talking to the rest of the time. But yes, he has a marvelous man, a marvelous preacher. He's doing a fantastic job for us. And we're lucky to have him.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
just add that
You can. Yeah, but the online people.
I just need to add, I remember Tim when he was a lad, a young lad. His dad and I were in seminary together, and he is amazing. He has vision. He has everything that we wish all pastors had in terms of vision of what the church is about, and he has the skills to lead. He could go anywhere. And the key is, as you said, it's how the congregation then responds and does the outreach. It does that. No person can do it alone. 99% of people come to church because someone other than the pastor invites them. When they get here, they hear the message, but they have to get here. I have to say one more thing. When you talked about water, have any of you traveled out west, going to South on the I-80, where you can go pretty quickly, okay? We go to Wyoming often. And in South Dakota, there is this little town called Wall, okay? Wall to Rugs. And do you know how that started? When you talked about the water thing, I was like, okay, for miles you have the signs of Wall Drug. It started when they needed to somehow reinvigorate that community. And they were a stop off the road. You had to go in, you had to drive in a ways, but it was free water. Have you seen all the tourist buses? Okay. It's just all the things that excellent presentation, and all the things you have up there are the things that we need to do. I say we because we are all church together, and you're Advent, and that's Jesus in your midst. So anyway, but Tim, wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful pastor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Michelle? Well, I wanted to say that Michelle and I had a great conversation, back and forth. I should say conversation, a letter back and forth. And Michelle's concern of this congregation, of some of its long-standing traditions, and can we start some of this? She was kind of instrumental in some of this fundamental shift concept, right? We're talking about, she's a recovering Catholic. We won't hold that against her, but the concept of, fundraising, and the community picnic, and some of these things that you see up on the presentation are things that we got from you on your conversations with us over the last couple of weeks. And so they're necessary and can be done.
I told Glenn that I don't understand the Lutheran aversion to fundraising because I did come from a Catholic background. But if we consider our narrative budget and the role that our building and our pastor and our parking lot and our property, it all plays into the ministries we do. And so I don't see anything wrong with taking a portion of any fundraiser that we do and directing it back to our budget because it's all part of our ministry. So we're not funding ourselves, we're funding our ministries. So it's like reframing your thinking, all you native Lutherans, it's not a bad thing, so.
Yeah, it's a difference, like you say, of the concept of, are we funding just this building? And are we funding just the administration of this building, the electrical for this building? No, because you're saying exactly, when you look at that ministry is how does it affect the outreach to the world can't happen without this organization. The bingo can't happen without the organization. Simple like for the bingo is we have to have the insurance, right? So the church has to have the liability insurance for us to be able to go put on bingo. So there are some costs that are associated with that, and Paul with the Sportsman's Dinner started that this year. 10% off the top of the Sportsman's Dinner came back to this church as a tithe, first time ever this last year, and we thank Paul for it and his group for it. And the same thing with bingo. Everyone that participated in bingo, 10% of the bingo proceeds came back to their church as a tithe, just for those reasons that you talked about. A lot of let me get you.
Can you explain how we're going to be using our money? For instance, are we going to be borrowing from ourselves, for instance, like the baby pantry budget or the quilting budget, or any of these? Are we going to be borrowing from ourselves? And also, are we going to be readjusting funds from building to general funds to meet our needs?
So yes, so it's an accounting. It's an accounting practice more than anything. It's a philosophical practice more than anything. We have two separate checking accounts. We have one which is the Mission Investment Fund. We have a checking account which is the general fund and monies that we have left in that checking account for building. So it's all one pot, right? It's all one pot, and you could say we are, in fact, borrowing from ourselves to pay the general fund bills. But we know that we can do that this year to the magnitude of what is the overage in the building fund currently. So if you turn around and say you're going to fund this next year's general fund by excess monies that are in the building fund, we can do that without touching any of the other ministries, without touching baby pantry, without touching the sewing group. We can do that without touching the Peace Park. We can do that without touching any of those other funds. We can still do that with just the excess that's in the building fund. The problem that happens with that is that we started this building fund with the concept that these extra dollars were always going to be there for long-term projects. And so ultimately, when we throw through this low spot, and if we do our mission, and we do end up with a revived church and additional members, those monies will be put back, just like we put them back this last year in reverse. In last year, when we started out this thing, we had no money in the building fund, and the money was in the general fund. And so we had borrowed in reverse to pay our mortgage. We restructured. One of the things that we did was do the line item adjustments to put the money back into the building fund that was used prior to that, right, out of the general fund. So when we get back, Ann and her magic on the QuickBooks, we'll do a journal entry to say we borrowed X number of dollars, $10,000 say we borrowed to be able to pay our bills. That $10,000, when it comes back into the general fund, can be moved back to properties and all be back to where it should be. But it makes no sense to us to try and go borrow from someone else at a high interest rate when we have money in our building fund. Any other thoughts? That's okay. You're getting others started. That's good.
We need to think outside the box, and we need to broaden our horizons. We can't be focused just on Lake Ann, because many of us don't live in Lake Ann. An example, the baby pantry. I happen to know that a lot of the physician offices have a very strong commitment to connecting to community services. You know, Nancy could easily mail a flyer or drop off a flyer to the pediatric offices in Traverse City, the family clinics, and they might be very willing to post it or to alert their people that this is an available resource. You know, so we have to move outside of Lake Ann in some of the things that we do.
And that's an excellent point. And also the point is that Nancy might not know that, but you know that. So instead of this this philosophy that we've had in the past, where you would drop that message note off to pastor and say, hey, would you tell Nancy this the next time you have a free moment? He doesn't have a free moment. It needs to be, you contact Nancy directly and say, Nancy, I got this idea. We talked about this. I heard you need some help at the baby pantry. These are some concepts. And then I know somebody that can design the flyer and print the thing out, and boom, 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 it happens. This, we've had this kind of a long-standing practice of putting that project on pastor's desk. And that project concept has to stop. Council's in charge of running this church. Council has to run this church. It's pastor's job to do the rest. And it's us as members to step up. I want to give a thanks to Dan Airforth. 2 weeks ago when we came in here and said we got this huge problem, we don't no longer have free snow removal, right? We're going to have to pay for snow removal. Dan came to the council and said, I'll do snow removal. I can do that. Well, we've already signed a contract with the snow removal guy for this year. However, we don't have, that snow removal guy that we've contracted with doesn't have salt. We definitely need salt, right? We about killed ourselves last year coming across that parking lot with 2 inches of ice on it. Thank goodness Dan has been here every single time, coming through the parking lot, spreading salt. I don't know if you enjoyed the walk this morning, but the roads were icy, the parking lot was beautiful. That's going to save 5 hips this year out there, right? I'm telling you, it's a shift, but and thank goodness for Dan that he raised his hand and said, I'll do that, right? So he got a hold of Doug. Doug got back to him and said, hey, we appreciate your offer. We can't use your offer of snow removal, but we could use this. Would you be willing to do that? And Dan said, absolutely. And he's doing it. And so those are the kinds of fundamental shifts, right, that we need to do, each and every one of us. As it comes along, he said, I'll do it. I'm available to do it. And he made it happen. Ben, our latest mowing guy here, has a question.
I move that the 2023 budget be adopted.
There's a motion to adopt the 2023. There's a second. Any other further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. The discussions aren't over. If you have questions that you didn't want to raise here, in my letter that I sent out to you before has my phone number, my email address on it. Get a hold of me at any time. We'll be happy to have that conversation. We have on here call to the membership. Anybody have anything else that they'd like to have for call to the membership? Any other things they'd like to raise from the floor?
I'd like to commend our council president for his fine leadership skills and abilities. I also would like to commend Ann for her professional skills and abilities that she has aided us so valiantly with.
We have never had a financial analysis of a budget like we've had this year. We've never had the efforts into a budget that we've had this year. Next year, it's on our council calendar. We have a calendar for the council so these things don't get delayed. Lindsay has it on her calendar to start even earlier this next year. But there's never been this much thought and effort put into a budget as we've had this year, and that's thanks to Ann. It's wonderful.
We had our Zoom meeting, 3 minutes into it, I was like, oh my gosh, you are gifted with your finances.
Yes, she is. Yes, yes. She actually has we didn't bring it today because it takes a math wizard to figure it out, but Ann did a financial cash flow because we know that money comes in differently at different times of year. Christmas is heavy, Easter is heavy, the summer is dry. So she did an analysis of the weighted income stream and the weighted expense stream. We know that in the winter we got high heat bills and electric bills. In the summer it's not as much, and you run through that whole analysis. And I asked for that a couple of years ago. I said, have we ever done this? And answer was no. And Ann came along, and without even me asking if we should have this, Ann goes, "Why don't you do this?" I'm like, oh yeah, exactly right. Why aren't we doing this? I have one more thing that it's not on the agenda that should have been, and it's really just a notification that it's going on. Building security. Half of Lake Ann knows how to get into this building. Half of Lake Ann knows where the hidden key is. Half of Lake Ann knows how to get that hidden key and go to the next place, and the next place leads you to the safe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Ridiculous. Pretty typical of small organizations, but it's time to grow up, and we're growing up. So, starting this next week, the combination boxes at the end of that building out there will be changed. If you need access to that building, get a hold of myself or Doug Canningham, and we'll tell you how to get the code to get into that key box. We'll let you know when you need to. That door out front will also have the exact same situation. We'll have a box on the side of the wall out there with a combination to it that allows you to get the key out of it to open that door. So, again, there'll be a sign out there with my phone number, Doug's phone number. It says, if you need building access, contact us. We'll give you the code, you can get in.
And you can change that code immediately if you need to.
Yes, and so those kinds of changes that are going to, and there will be more, there'll be more changes as to access to different rooms, et cetera, et cetera. It's coming down the pike. It's going to be a change. It's a philosophical change. It's not a trust thing of people that are here. It's half of Lake Ann knows how to get into this building. It's crazy that the people that were members of this church 15 years ago knew how to get in the building. I couldn't get in the building. So, we have to fix that. So, thank you very much for your time. Thank you much for your loyalty and your stewardship and just your support. We love it. Closing prayer, Pastor, if you would. And also with you.
Holy Spirit, you have given so abundantly. You have given us vision in this year. You have given us a direction to go. So we ask that you would provide for us, that you would stir up in us the gifts, the spiritual gifts in each of our hearts, that you would give us the fuel to go where we need to go, that you would give us and keep us on track, that you would be our compass to keep us going in the direction that you would have us go for as long as we can. We will continue to walk in the way that you have laid out for us, and we would continue to follow. And it is in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Motion to adjourn. Unless you want to stay. Nick. Second by Peggy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ben and Paul. I didn't call that out.